So we'll take a look at an early shift in the game here for Evan Bouchard in Game 3 of the series against Owen Sound. Everything's fine here. This is being shown just to illustrate how long this shift lasts for him, and it's going to come into play later how shift management works, both for yourself and for your line mates or for your partner. We're going to see here first the puck's going to get just thrown away by London. It's kind of a wishy-washy forecheck, but watch here. Bouchard's not defending anything. He's not defending the line. He loses track of the player behind him, and he's also lined up pretty far outside the dot line for that situation, and given that he's just kind of in the middle of nowhere, really not a beneficial spot for him. He just kind of loses track at 21 there. If there's a better pass, there's a breakaway, as London attacked in all three lanes, so they had to be spread out. Here, now we're a minute into this shift at least, and Bouchard's going to just try to go one versus the world here. His partner wants to get off the rink. That leads to a sloppy play where they have to make a last-second switch there. And it puts his team in a tough spot. Now they got to scramble, and play stays alive. And now here we go into seconds 70, 75. You're going to get towards 80 seconds here when Bouchard could have made a smarter play, either sitting back a little and waiting for support, or just not taking on two players in the neutral zone like this. It's not heads-up hockey. Here's a scenario that should be fairly easy to defend, and Bouchard just refuses to get around on this and get his hips around and get his shoulders squared up on this rush that has back pressure over the top. Only a bad player would take this shot here and not take advantage of the gift that Bouchard is going to give him here. Granted, Bouchard's as physically mature a defenseman as you're going to see in the OHL since Aaron Ekblad, but you're not going to be able to get away with this kind of lazy style of defense when you're playing against NHLers, and Bouchard's going to do that. You know, he just opens himself up for problems. He tries to kind of trip him behind the net, and whatever, it works out in this case, but this is a bad habit to have. Very next shift for Bouchard, and he's a sitting duck for isolation plays in the neutral zone just because of a lot of the skills that he lacks, risk mitigation being chiefly among them. They end up walking right around him there, and he passively tries to get a hook or a high stick on him and fails. So London comes out the other way. Bouncing puck. Love for him to sense danger there on that bouncing puck, but he recovers okay. Makes a good close off here. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, big keys here. Here's the recovery. So you know where to go. Are you communicating? You got to lead this pairing. He's right not to go behind the net because you shouldn't have two defenders behind the net at one time. This is where it's a huge red flag for me. This player is already finished off on the sideboards. He goes and attacks him anyhow, opening up the lane. Really, he would have gotten beat back to his own net had the puck not gone out of play. That kind of mental lapse there is a huge red flag because it happens all the time with him, and it's a big red flag that hockey sense is a major issue for Bouchard. Part of playing defense is having a sense of urgency. This one's a little bit of a nitpick, but we'll see more about it later. The puck is going to get wrapped up kind of close to the net, and it's in feet and it's tangled up. I would love Bouchard to take control here and just kind of bang this thing away into safety and go and retrieve it or help facilitate a retrieval. And he just kind of comes in and just takes a passing shot at it and then just moves on. But you see when he joins the rush the other way, he's urgent. He throws another puck in the net. That's his main source of offense, really, is just throwing things on net. It's nothing overly creative. And that's fine, but just knowing the time and place of where we're at, and this is London's one shot really to get back into the series in Game 3, and I just don't get that there's a strong sense of urgency from him to make a play, especially when the puck's not on his blade. As the sequence winds down, we'll transition into a defensive zone face-off scenario where there's clearly a plan. This will look ridiculous at passing glance, but if you watch enough London games, they have this bank play off the corner boards from behind the red line to the right wing that they can try to pick up. So there's a time and a place for that. This is clearly what's communicated going into it, but you have to read and react too. You can't just automatically be set to, well, this is what we said we're going to do, so we have to do it no matter what. And Bouchard just has this, let's do this no matter what. Even if London still had Patrick Kane, he's not going to get this puck on the right side here. The defense is too gapped up and they're too ready for it. It ends up being a throwaway icing just due to a lack of cognizance in the last minute of a period. So now the ensuing face-off, and as they tend to do when you lose these defensive zone draws pretty clean, it's going to end up being at least something towards the net. Bouchard not first to that puck. The blood's on his hands on this. He just kind of lollygags his way through just any zones and layers that he wants to, having almost no effect on the play at all. And then they get the reprieve in the sense that Owen Sound's just going to run out the rest of this period. But, whenever you make a mistake in hockey, normally you're the guy that's, all right, well, this is on me, boys. I'm going to come back and get it. And Bouchard just kind of does more lazy loops, and there's not really a lot of sense of urgency. And I'm not even sure if it's a lack of sense of urgency. I really strongly believe that he just doesn't know what's going on the ring. So here we'll have a garden variety rush here. Bouchard drifts a little bit too far into the middle, but he's got time and he recovers fine. And his stick is pretty well positioned in this instance. I'd love for him to communicate. He's the leader of the pairing, so he needs to communicate which lane the forward should be back checking through. Other than that, he's pretty all right. Mitigates some risk pretty well here as he pushes him into the far lane. This is a poor read by player 11 coming down the middle. This is very obviously a pass-off pad scenario from the get-go. The only thing I'll say about Bouchard here is when he makes his turn, skates are in pretty good shape. The stick's got to be on the floor, though, because you're cutting down that last passing lane. Stick's got to be on the floor. You can't allow a puck to get through there if you don't have to. Puck's going to come out the other way. Puck's going to come out the other way, and Bouchard's defending the middle of the rink, and everything's fine in this sense. It's once they get into the zone where you run into problems. So this puck's going to squirt loose near the net. He's going to pick somebody up, go into the net, and then he's going to chase them all over the place. He's going to foul him. Right here, he's got to switch with a forward. That's no longer Bouchard's responsibility. He shouldn't be playing. London doesn't play man. Almost nobody plays man. When you have a defenseman that's following players across every layer and he would have followed him into the Owen Sound bench if he had the opportunity to. It's a sign that hockey IQ is a concern. And so here we go. Bouchard and Regula get their signals crossed because Bouchard starts taking Regula's guy. And then look at this. This drives you absolutely crazy. Here we have a scenario where London has a chance to get an easy out, and just when you think, all right, well, Bouchard's not very good defensively, but at least he's figuring out offensively, he just goes and stands and glides and stares at Alec Regula to make a move with this puck. You should be widening out. You should be going behind the net. You should be doing anything, communicating, do anything. Set off fireworks, do anything, but just come over and just stare at this guy who now has to he has to throw a pizza all the way across the rink, and they're very fortunate that it doesn't get picked off throwing it all the way across like that in the last seconds of a period. That's probably the most annoying clip that's going to be seen in this whole thing. That is ridiculous, and it just shows that he's just not thinking very well. You would never see, I don't want to make comparisons like this because it's silly, but you'd never see like a Drew Doughty do that or one of these premier defensemen in the league. These guys are thinking it. Bouchard's not thinking. Again, we look here, just about partner help, and this is awfully drowsy. He just puts himself in Alec Regula's hip pocket and just coasts into the same corner with him instead of widening out to a far lane. He's going to jump in and support this rush. That's fine. But starting in your own zone and just getting the exits, just not very interested or just not very adept at doing it. He throws more pucks at the net here, which is fine. And you see that there's a little bit more power in these strides when he's trying to make something happen on offense. A lot of it kind of looks the same. A lot of Bouchard's shifts look the same. He goes back on the fence. He stands at the top of his own crease, just kind of with his stick on his hip, and just kind of rotates around, and then he'll rush it directly up the middle of the rink, and then he'll shoot a puck on net. And that's kind of a day in the life of Evan Bouchard. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of talent there, and there's talent, there's size. His skating woes are grossly overrated, really, in terms of what he can do. It's part of it is that he's just not very dialed into the game, especially when he doesn't have the puck or there's a shot that he won't get the puck. He's just kind of sleepy, not Merkley sleepy, but pretty sleepy in his own right. Now, in fairness to Bouchard here, this is a mess for everybody. But it's just about identifying danger. You want to put out the fire at your feet. So you identify the most dangerous thing that's to you. And he has good positioning in the slot. And then he's gonna get suckered into this shot that is really not that threatening from the defenseman Dursey, I think this is, who's gonna drift outside the dots here. with a lot of bodies. He's making, this is another guy that's not a genius out there in 5 and white for Owen Sound, but that's another story. This shot becomes all the less threatening as he drifts down and away and outside the dots. So Bouchard just drives me nuts when players give up their feet for no reason at all. You lose all your leverage. And then he slides out of position and leaves the guy in the slot open. That's the danger here. And he gets some help. That's fine. Finally, a forward wakes up. And again, this is not entirely on Bouchard, but just mitigating risk is such a huge part of defense, and it's not one of those things that you see on, in like the scouting report or a video game for most people because they don't understand what that represents. But risk mitigation is such a big deal in defense. It's okay to get beat by a perfect play. It's not okay to allow an easy play that becomes perfect for the other team, and that's what Bouchard kind of does here as he takes the bait on the shot from a lesser angle and gives up the slot in the middle. Just little things like that just show that the head's just not really in it. Here's another pretty annoying shift to watch. He's gonna be okay here. Watch, we're gonna start the rush, but look. Take your head up here. The entire province is going off for a line change right now. You're gonna decide, instead of waiting for help or waiting for support or attacking, you're going to have a chance here to attack with at least 4, which is the key to offense. You're down a goal. Instead, it's Evan Bouchard versus the world. This is like a bad VHL game, the minor league in Russia, where players just take on other players 1-on-4, and just, if it works, it works, and if not, it doesn't work, and that's too bad. Everybody's off the rink, and he decides this is the time that I'm going to rush the puck up the ice. He's going to stay back and make a hit on a player completely irrelevantly, which would have delayed things further had Formanton, who is an absolute monster, had he not picked up the puck. He ladles this thing wide. That's fine. Nothing crazy here, just supporting the play as normal. No issue with this at all. And then, so the play is going to eventually stall here, and it's going to go back one more time for Bouchard to just kind of throw one at the net again. London's going to make a horrific pass across the rink, and now they're out the other way. So now he's on the fence. Good stick, good positioning. I like that. Use your partner. That's good, boy. Nothing wrong with this. Set up fine for his partner on the reverse. That's good. Okay, now the scenario is different, right? Now you have room to rush. It's a tired Owen Sound team now. You can take on this forechecker who's not moving his feet very well. You have a chance to rush. This is the one you choose not to rush. This is the one you throw into absolutely nowhere and extend the long shift for your defense. Again, so you take the 1-on-4 rush, but the one where you have almost a line and a half clear to yourself and you actually have other green players on the rink, that's the one you choose that you want to throw into the middle of the rink to absolutely nobody? Come on. A couple of quick points about this rush. First of all, this is a rush that starts in the gutter. It should die in the gutter. I like Bouchard's stick positioning here. I like when defensemen are pointing their blade at the puck there. That's good. One thing that doesn't often get talked about in terms of skating and risk mitigation in defense is closing speed and being able to just finish off defensive plays really well. Bouchard lets this one kind of linger when maybe he has a chance at turning off this pretty feckless rush attempt, and he ends up compounding problems. So they're going to turn out of the corner. It should be identified as Bouchard just continues to just glide away from the action here, is that there's a chance here that 2 players are going to get beat back to their own net here on London, and Bouchard is the middle guy on the weak side. He's the safety valve, and even when he doesn't recognize this, first of all, and then when he does recognize it, he takes one little half stride at it, and London ends up committing a reaching foul because Bouchard is not readily available. Again, this is a pretty garden variety rush here. Yeah, this is not entirely his fault, but again, this is about risk mitigation and just thinking the game out correctly. Look at him drift into the middle here. What do you mean? That forward doesn't have it. You have to identify the fact that there's a dangerous... You're in the 2-on-1 scenario. Regula has that side. He's got to push the play in a certain direction, and everyone's got to kind of push things in the areas where they don't suck for you. And here you drift into the middle and allow an entire half of the rink to be used for offense for the other team. Just identify what's going on. Yeah, that forward, that's his responsibility to track back through that. I got that. But that doesn't mean that you can't help. And instead, he drifts into the middle for a guy that Regula has pretty well managed. There's a passing lane that's to Regula's left that's really not threatening, and he's got a stick there. And Bouchard just drifts over instead of just good lane management and good risk mitigation. Instead, leaves the entire half of the rink open to the guy that's coming with speed. I don't love it. Just to tie this in here, he gets a lot of marks for his skating. Look at the power in this stride as he gets up the middle. I think the skating, he's not the most agile player I've ever seen. The stride isn't the prettiest thing I've ever seen, but he can get around the rink okay. It's a matter of, does he know where to go? That's very unclear. And then B, how much does he want to? We saw a couple of times where, especially in the defensive zone, that lack of urgency is not appealing. Offensive defenseman, naturally, sometimes you're going to go fishing. Evan Bouchard has gone fishing here. You won't see him in the frame for a while. Then he comes back, and then it's just I'm not really sure. I think his batteries are low. I don't know what's happening. This is the first period of a game against Sault Ste. Marie. I don't know what he's doing there in particular. He is right on top of a forward who's actually well positioned. I don't know what that achieves. The forward now has to do anything else to get away from Bouchard, who is just doing whatever he wants. He's got the point right here. He's the highest guy in the defensive zone. So now look at the other London Knights are trying to scramble and communicate what should be done because Bouchard is doing nothing helpful, really. Now he's going to switch over to the other point. Okay, that's not helpful at all. And then here, it doesn't at all have any urgency to help get this puck out, and instead it has to be just thrown away because he's just standing around, and it leads to yet another opportunity if Sault Ste. Marie hadn't thrown the puck away. So I don't know what's happening on that shift. I don't know if he lost his charger or what, but that is dreadful. Here we go again. This is just all the things that we've talked about already. Here's Bouchard. He's last guy back. This is a shorthanded opportunity, so you have an opportunity to get at least 2 on the puck if you want it, so there shouldn't be an issue here. One guy fans. Okay, you're standing in the middle of nowhere. Okay, fine. You're the last guy back. You're just going to protect the net. You're the safety valve now. You're the safety valve. I believe those are all forwards that he's out there with. You're the safety valve. Just all you have to do is just hands in pockets, just whistling, leaning against the light post, doing absolutely nothing in a situation where his team is about to give up a shorthanded goal right in front of his face, and he cannot be troubled to do anything with it. Okay, 2-on-1 on his doorstep here. Now just don't give up too much leverage, and there's a couple of things at play here, and if you're thoughtful, you can piece them all together reasonably. This isn't the worst situation that you've seen because there's help on the way. So, one, you got to buy a little bit of time so that this forward can get back and not make it a 3-on-1. So you got to get on top of that guy. So buy some time by just hedging the puck carrier a little bit. Then skates and sticks go in lanes. So it's important to maintain those lanes. And if you aren't sure about where somebody is behind you, you're going to lose out on that. Here, this isn't in a lane. His stick is on top of his skates. His skates aren't, there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of turning them sideways and how you align them and doing all kinds of things to take up more room. He takes up about as little room as possible, and now he's in so deep. His stick is on the side of a lane that if it's there, it's the goalie's responsibility. Goalies, you can't have a pass go through your blue like that. That you get a stick on that. You're trained to get a stick on that. So he turns his stick to the wrong foot. It shouldn't be on top of his foot anyway, but he turns it to the wrong foot, and he exposes the lane. That lane happens to be right in the middle of the slot from about 8 feet in front of his goaltender. And then he's able to, I'm pretty sure he doesn't get this, but he's able to moonwalk back into the lane to block the shot. But Now he's a little unsettled, a little bit frazzled as he tries to get into it. He's going to try to push into this rush on top of a bunch of other players, and then thinks better of that, which is good. But again, just sticks and skates and lanes just really doesn't have a feel for that. That's something that can be learned, but he doesn't show the propensity for learning. Again, just managing the lane and just understanding where players are on the rink and having that feel. Good players catalog where players are and are going to be. And again, this lane's given up, and there's an opportunity because Bouchard's standing around the top of his own crease as normal. Here again, failure to communicate, really failure to identify a play. A lot like another OHL grad in Jamie Alexiak. Teams love to isolate Evan Bouchard and just pick him apart because it just doesn't read the play very well. Here, this is a pretty standard 2-on-2 with a crossover. You got a guy that crosses over the top of the puck. This is all pretty standard stuff. You pick the defenseman's stick and then you open up a little bit of room for yourself. But this is a nothing play, except for the fact that Bouchard falls for it hook, line, and sinker, and he addresses the lane that's not his, opening up his lane for Regula, who's not going to be ready for this because nothing's called out. It's very clear that no one's talking to anybody. So this 2-on-2 becomes 2-on-4 rush. Bouchard, very interestingly, is able to lose both men at different times in this 3-second span as they within 40 feet of his own net. That's impressive in its own right. But again, this is the guy, and you see it in more games than just in this video montage here, that teams love the opportunity to try to isolate him because of just how poor he reads the play. And a lot like Jamie Alexiak or Cody Franzen when he was in the league. Just guys that aren't very smart just lend themselves to this type of thing, and they get victimized by it more often than not.